May the odds be ever in your favour.
I don't know if you've noticed, but I have done some little nods to the Hunger Games series. I have my hair in braids. I know this is not how Katniss does it, by the way, but I couldn't do it, and this is the best I could do, and I still know it's rubbish, so don't go there. I hope you can see, a Hunger Games Mockingjay pin that I bought, especially for this video, for you guys. I have bought the snake, because one, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes kind of gives it away, okay? But also, Sunrise on the Reaping. There's a snake. I hope you appreciate what I've done for you. And this is the best I could do. I tried to look for another Jellycat, but he was so cute as well, so I thought I'd get him too. So you've got the Ballad of Songbirds and Snake and Sunrise on the Reaping, both with a snake and a bird on. Don't you think? Think it's good? And also, I've bought my lovely painting. Well, I say painting. Does it count as a painting? Anyway, I've got my, let's call it a painting. I've got my painting of all these birds, which I thought, birds, there's so many birds within the Hunger Games book. I thought that was quite a good setting. Let me know what you think. Hi everybody. In this video, I read the 2 prequels to the Hunger Games series written by Suzanne Collins. I have included chapters, so if you wish to see just my review on the newest book in the series, Sunrise on the Reaping, click on the relevant chapter now. The first book, or Book 0 if it's in order, is called The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I've had it on my bookshelf since it was released. My plan was to clear space on the bookshelf because I knew I wanted to keep this book. I've kept all the other books of the Hunger Games series, but spoiler alert, I did not clear space off my bookshelf, I just bought more books. And then time flies by, and the date of Sunrise on the Reaping was creeping closer, and I knew I wanted to do a video on Sunrise on the Reaping, so I knew I had to read this first. So I did! Hence why this video is for both books, but I also feel like it's quite good to do both the prequels together. So, let's get on with the actual review. Please note, obviously this book is the prequel to the Hunger Games series, so some plot lines may be spoiled in the review if you have not actually read the original Hunger Games series, but you intend to. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is basically the origin story of, I'm going to keep saying this wrong, Coriolanus Snow. Coriolanus? So the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is basically the origin story of Coriolanus Snow. I'm going to say that wrong so many times. I apologise in advance. It's such a hard word for me to say. So Coriolanus Snow, who is a major character in the main Hunger Games series. Now, the book starts with Coriolanus living with his grandmom, or grandmother as we would call her, and Tigris, his cousin, in the capital. They are being brought up by their grandmother, as both Tigris's and Coriolanus's parents were killed in the first rebellion. Now, money is tight, yet they are trying to keep it a secret as they don't want to lose face and also bring shame on the Snow family name. For anyone who is not familiar with the Hunger Games series, the world the Hunger Games is set in is called Panem. I believe Panem is meant to be basically North America, but in the future. The capital is the main city that rules over the rest of the 12 districts. The 12 districts are mainly known for what resource they provide or the main type of industry for that district. For example, District 7 is lumber and District 12 is mining, and so on. District 13, there was a District 13 at one point, was destroyed in a rebellious uprising of the districts against the capital. After the war was won by the capital, as a way to keep the districts in line, one boy and one girl from the ages of 12 to 18 are selected from each district in a ceremony called the Reaping. These children are basically chosen to fight each other to the death in the Hunger Games. The further the districts are out from the capital, the more poverty-stricken they likely are. This is another way the capital controls the districts, hence the name the Hunger Games. The districts, the people are relatively poor and, starving. This book is set just before the start of the 10th annual Hunger Games. It is essentially very different to the Hunger Games in the original series, as the games haven't been fully fleshed out and jazzed up like they have later on in the original series. So Coriolanus has been selected as the mentor to one of the participants in this upcoming Hunger Games. Her name is Lucy Greybeard, and she is from District 12, which is one of the poorest districts, if not the poorest. So she's basically seen as having no chance of winning the games. While she resides in District 12 now, she's actually from a group called the Covey, who were travellers until the capital stopped them from moving around after the rebellion. Coriolanus sees this as a slight towards his family, having a contestant who is basically a write-off from the start. If his participant wins the games and survives, Coriolanus will receive funding, which would help fund him going to university. Otherwise, he would not be able to afford it. So he is perhaps more motivated than most of the other mentors. All the mentors are actually from the capital.
Here are some of my favourite quotes from the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Snow lands on top. Nothing you can take from me was ever worth keeping. What are lies but the attempt to conceal some sort of weakness? The strain of being a full-fledged adult every day had grown tiresome. Wars are won by heads, not hearts.
So what are the good parts within the book? It made me remember how much I love Suzanne Collins' writing. The Hunger Games is one of my favourite series of all time, so I was so glad I could immerse myself in that world again. I found it fascinating that the author chose to focus on Coriolanus Snow. Skip this next little part if you have not read the original series, because this is a major spoiler here. Coriolanus Snow is the bad guy in the original series, so this is essentially his villain origin story. I have to say I thought it was very clever of the author to show the story arc of how he started in this book to where he got within the original Hunger Games series. Coriolanus is definitely a morally grey character with both good and bad sides. I don't always like characters like that, but I did actually really enjoy it within this book. I liked seeing the origins of other things we see later on in the Hunger Games series, like the introduction of the Jabberjays and some of the songs/music. There are many nods to the original series, and I thought it was a really nice touch. So as the main character isn't inherently a good guy, it makes it very interesting to read, and you don't 100% root for him all the time. You also don't know if you can trust him or other characters within the book. And so on to the points of the book I didn't necessarily enjoy. No spoilers, but at certain points of the book there is ambiguity, as in you aren't really sure what happened. Now, I did actually watch the film well before I read the book. I think there was a deal on at the time, so it was cheap to watch it. And I wasn't sure if it would be clearer in the book than it was in the film. It wasn't, by the way. And that is how it's meant to be in the story. Now, I can be a fan of uncertainty, but in this book/film, for some reason it really annoyed me, especially about one certain thing that happens or doesn't happen. You don't know. There are certain points I thought the pacing could have been improved, as the storyline at the time wasn't as interesting as other parts of the book. All in all, I really enjoyed reading the book, and I flew through it really quickly. If you have not read the book or the original Hunger Games series itself, then I highly recommend you pick it up. I rated this book a 4.5 stars. If you have enjoyed my review of the book so far, please subscribe or hit the like button to let me know. That'd be great, thank you. And so, on to Sunrise on the Reaping, obviously also by Suzanne Collins. This is the newly released book, or it was when I got it the other day. This is also a prequel to the original Hunger Games series, and I was so excited to read it. Now, if you have read the original series of the Hunger Games, you will know who Haymitch is. If you don't, then some of what I might say will possibly be a spoiler for later on in the series, because these are obviously prequels to the original series. You have been warned. So this book is centred on Haymitch, who is a beloved character from the original Hunger Games series. The book starts on the morning of a Hunger Games reaping, which is where they choose the participants for the Hunger Games. It is also Haymitch's birthday. This year's Hunger Games is the 50th annual game. They refer to it as the Quarter Quell. As it is the Quarter Quell this year, they have decided to up the stakes of the games by doubling the number of tributes in the games. My hand hurts, the book is heavy. Haymitch is a resident of District 12, which is one of the poorest, if not the poorest, districts. Money is tight, and to stave off starvation, you can apply for tesserae. Basically, you get a small amount of food items, but to get this, you have to enter your name more times in the reaping, so you have more of a chance to be picked. Therefore, children from richer families are less likely to be picked because they would only have their name in once, for example, whereas someone like Haymitch's name would be in the pot about 40 times because he'd have to apply because he needs food to not starve. So Haymitch has had to apply for tesserae. It's just himself, his mum and his younger brother, Sid. He also helps out in other ways that may not be totally legal to earn extra money. Haymitch is in love with a Covey girl called Lenore. Covey people were originally travellers who at some point were told they could no longer move around the districts. This was due to the original rebellion against the capital, so now they're stuck in District 12 essentially. Now, if you have read the original book series, you obviously go into the book with certain knowledge and therefore assumptions, but there are definitely still some surprises within the book.
And now, here are some of my favourite quotes from Sunrise on the Reaping. The second quarter quell. Twice as many kids. No point in worrying, I tell myself. There's nothing you can do about it. Like 2 Hunger Games in one. No way to control the outcome of the reaping or what follows it. So don't feed the nightmares. Don't let yourself panic. Don't give the capital that. They've taken enough already. It's going to be all right, I say, which rings hollow. You don't really believe that, do you? Maybe not, but I try to, because the reaping's going to happen no matter what I believe, sure as the sun will rise tomorrow. After a while, I slide down the wall, cradling my swollen hands, panting. Pain stabs my chest, and I wonder if a person's heart can really break. Probably. The word broken-hearted had to come from somewhere. I imagine my heart busted into a dozen glassy red pieces, their hard, jagged edges stabbing into my flesh at every beat. It may not be scientific, but it matches what I feel. Part of me thinks I will die right now. First, avoid the slaughter. Get weapons. Look for water. Find food and where to sleep. Fire and friends can keep.
So what are some of the good points in the book? You learn more about Haymitch, who, like I said, is a beloved character from the original series, and I think people were actually waiting for his story. You learn more about his home life, personality, and how he got to be how his character is in the later Hunger Games series. Yet again, Suzanne Collins' writing really immerses you within the world. The arena, the districts, the people, and the power. Again, I really like the touches, the little nods to the original series, but also now to the Ballad of the Songbirds and Snakes as well. So we go back to the Hunger Games arena, which is now a more jazzed up version than in the first prequel, the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. This is probably my favourite part within the series. I think that sounds bad, but this is due to like the suspense. For example, what are the game makers going to introduce in this world? What setting will the world be? Where are the participants? What mutts are they going to introduce within the world? Who's going to be lucky? Who's going to be really unlucky? And who the crowd get behind, for example. And that's why it's one of my favourite parts within the series. I also like that it sets the scene for later happenings within the original Hunger Games series. However, that does lead on to a bad point within the book. I kind of also feel like it then makes what happens in the Hunger Games a little bit less special. Maybe that's just me. There are also definitely dark themes within the book, Again, if you have read the original series, you will be aware of that. But it's not all shade, there is definitely light within the book too. Personally, I still prefer most of the original series. Note, the first couple of books are my favourite within the original series. It's been such a long time since I've read them, but I would probably rate them like this: Catching Fire, The Hunger Games, Sunrise on the Reaping, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and then Mockingjay. What order would you place the books in? Let me know down in the comments. The author still leaves some ambiguity, as there are hints to what may have happened, but you still don't know for sure. I kind of felt like we could have done with a book in between The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and Sunrise on the Reaping. I feel like we left Coriolanus Snow at a certain point, but we've not been shown the steps in between. And honestly, I would love to know how he got from the point in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes to how he got to Sunrise in the Reaping. There seems like a big leap. Just a minor point, and I'm sure it won't bother most people, but there is a poem called The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe within this book. And I feel like a verse or two would have been fine within the main novel, but it feels like there's an awful lot of it in, particularly like one chapter I think it is, and perhaps it would have been better placed within an appendix or something like that. It just felt a bit much to have most of it inserted in the book. Overall, I really enjoyed the book Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, and I really feel like a lot of people were waiting for Haymitch's story. He was such a beloved character within the original series, so they'll be pleased that it's out now. I don't think you'll be disappointed, and I rated the book a 4.5 star.
I forgot to say whilst doing the videos, I really do love the insides of the books. Isn't that gorgeous? I love it.
So, I hope you have enjoyed my reviews of The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and Sunrise on the Reaping. I have really enjoyed both books and recommend you pick them up if you have not done so far. And also, if you have not read the original series, The Hunger Games, I would really recommend you pick that up too. Like I said, it is genuinely one of my favourite series, if not my favourite series that I have enjoyed so far. So, thanks everybody. Goodbye.